G'day folks. Well, it's time to do the front brakes on little Betty here, a little silver short wheelbase RAV4. Front discs are machined but came up undersized, and I'm going to replace the pads anyway, so yeah, first things first, got to jack her up and put her on stands and see what happens. Should be pretty easy. There's definitely a bit of rust going on, but seaside car, you got a bit of salt. That's another thing we'll look at. I've had the front CVs rebuilt, or front drive shafts have been rebooted and greased. The actual unis themselves didn't need to be replaced, so it's not a full rebuild, but close enough. Anyway, let's get set up. I also want to get rid of these tags. They were from the nudge bar that was originally fitted. I don't have it, I don't want one, so they can come off. Okay. Well, first time after having the clutch and everything done, I've got the wheels off. I can already see a problem. That CV boot is held on with cable tie, and that bit there is slinging grease out because it seems to have been moving on the shaft. That's not even tight. If I try, I could pull that off. That's not good. I really thought I was actually getting a decent mechanic here, but clearly not. I know most places normally send them off for rebuild, but it looks like they've snapped one clip and replaced it with a cable tie. And this one here just isn't tight enough because it's just slinging grease, which doesn't even look like they repacked them with grease. That's just old, used grease. I don't know, is CV grease supposed to be like that? I don't think so. Oh god. I guess if you want a job done right, you got to do it yourself. And the cable tie is not so bad, but that loose clip is just going to sling all this grease out and then eventually allow water and dirt back in. So yeah, if I have to buy a replacement shaft eventually, that's not too bad. It's only a couple $100 for a pair. But you know, if you're going to pay $100 to get someone to re-grease and pack and reboot, well, I think it was $100 to get them redone. $100 including the boot kit, so obviously they didn't make much money on it. You'd still expect something a bit better, I guess. And it's not gritty, it's just not... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if CV grease is supposed to be like graphite metallic, or whether it's a translucent grease like... what would you call it? Normal LM grease, lithium grease, something like that, wheel bearing grease. Anyway. Everything else seems to be fine. All the other boots seem to be fine. It's just this one here, someone's buggered up. Yeah. Anyway, it was cheap, but yeah, you get what you pay for. Okay, well, temporarily I've used hose clamps just to keep moisture and crap out of these boots, but essentially they don't interfere, but I know hose clamps aren't ideal for CVs, so I'll take this car back to the mechanic for both a preliminary inspection and replacement of the clips. Yeah, that side's alright. The other side I did that clip. I replaced that with a hose clamp because it was loose. The boot had actually slipped off its little mounting land and was up here, so it had actually popped off. That was why it was a bit loose. So I've reset that and clamped it on with a thin hose clamp. That one there's a bit big. That one there's a General Motors. I think these were actually used on similar type boots. It's a GM 7090. They do fit quite well, but I know it's not so ideal. Normally they use those clips there, but without the proper tool to tension them, well, you're not going to be getting very far. And that was kind of my argument for getting it done. I just told the guy I'm either going to have to buy the tool and do it myself, or he could do it while the car's apart, like while the transmission's out. And he insisted on doing it himself, and obviously they don't have the right tool for the job because they weren't tensioned properly, and one of them was missing and broken. So yeah, be careful. It's a shame there's so much rust. I'll have to start painting with a rust killer. It's not too bad though. Anyway, I guess I better go on to what I was originally going to do, and that's the brakes. Take these bolts here off and remove the caliper, and that will come loose. See, the hub's already loose inside the rotor, so yeah, that'll come off easy. Just pull the caliper off, compress the pistons with the bleeder open going to the jar. Use a bleed jar. Make sure the slides are free. If the slides aren't free and are seized, I'm going to have to take the caliper off and send it off for reconditioning. I'd send both of them off for reco. Brake hoses are good, they're not cracked or bulging or anything like that. Yeah, that's about it. Not too bad. And you can see the why they use constant velocity joints, because not only is the suspension all the way down, but it's also turned hard at hard lock, and it can still transfer 100% power. That's where CVs are pretty awesome. Anyway, onward. Okay, well, I've got it apart. There's clearly plenty of pad left on these. They're not all that old. Like, these rotors weren't all that old, apart from the fact that they let the car sit around so long that they rusted up, and, well, I'm guessing it hot spotted where the rust wasn't, like where the pad was, and warped them so badly that they machined undersize. I took all that material off. You can see the step there. So they are done. But the pads and everything on this are fine, so I'm just going to give everything a bit of a clean up and reuse it as it is. I did buy another set of pads, but I could use them on blue. That's not a problem. Right now I just want to get the roadworthy and everything done, so good pads, good rotors, a good pass for inspection. Yeah, there's nothing really else to do. Bleed and compress the caliper, get all that back, make sure that the slide pins work. If the slides are jammed, I'm going to have to send them off for reco, but that's to be expected. So yeah, not bad. You notice I'm hanging the caliper up so as not to damage the flexible brake line. Always a good idea to do that. Okay, that's that side done. Should be a lot better than before. The pads are flat and clean, so I'm happy with them. If they were adversely worn or not flat or anything like that, I would have rejected them. But they're fine, so I just gave them a clean up. Everything's bolted in, torqued down, bled the brakes. Yeah, or bled that side, I've got to bleed the other side, just keep putting fluid through it. I'll probably go through another bottle. I've gone through half a bottle just purging the system, just flood excess through it. Same with the rears, I'll bleed them later. Probably use another half bottle. This stuff's cheap enough, so it's worth getting fresh fluid through it, get rid of any algae and other gunk that grows in the system. Yeah, very important. Make sure your brake system's clean and you won't have any issues with calipers rotting out or other issues like that. I mean, the guides will still stick because they don't get fluid, but they the calipers and the pistons themselves can be attacked by really bad or water-laden brake fluid. Brake fluid's very hygroscopic, so you want to avoid leaving it open to the moisture. Yeah, replace every 24 months regardless. Very good. Okay, well, other side was a repeat of the other, no problems. The weather's turning bad real quick, so I have to wrap this up pretty quick. I didn't do a step-by-step, but basically just bolt that back on nice and tight, torque these bolts up good, and away you go. Very easy. You'd have these done in about 30 minutes with the right tools and everything set up. Tyres back on. Again, really good tyres. Well, cheap but good.